So, Caitlin Clark made the All-W first team, and Breanna Stewart didn't. And we're now at that time where people that have never said a good word about Breanna Stewart are now the biggest Breanna Stewart fans, as long as it is a chance to get at Caitlin Clark. And, you know, an enemy of my enemy is my friend. That seems to be the way a lot of WNBA media have been about Breanna Stewart. And, like, it's one thing, and this is where I have the big problem with this, is, like, it's one thing if this is voices on Twitter. Like, I'm not going to be fair, I probably have, but, like, ideally, I'm not going to be amplifying just random Twitter accounts. But the problem is that these are people that are, like, working for main networks, and they're, like, people that are getting credentials to cover WNBA. And the worst part about this is like, when these people are on their networks, they're giving actual basketball takes. They're making actual basketball reasons. And then when they go on their Twitter, they're like, Caitlin Clark's not a top 30 player in the WNBA. Caitlin Clark didn't deserve to make the Olympic team at this stage in the year. And, you know, Breanna Stewart is now better. Like, I'm very, very sorry. I'm very sorry. Breanna Stewart was behind Caitlin Clark in every single counting stat. And you can also, and the vast majority of, like, advanced stats, like, Caitlin Clark's still higher. She's still higher than Breanna. And the problem with the advanced stats is the advanced stats favor forwards, are very bad to point guards. And they're especially very bad to ball dominant, turnover prone point guards. And even if you want some stats that aren't even the advanced stats, if you add hockey assists in, if you have assists plus hockey assists per game, Breanna's might go to 7.1. Caitlin Clark's probably goes to 13. Like, it's one of those things where you're like, she was so far better. And the only difference is team record. That's it. That's genuinely the only difference. Post-Olympic break, Breanna Stewart averaged like 13 points a game. But you're hearing all these narratives from the media being like, media complain about the media being like, oh, the media, they don't care enough about slow starts. And there's too much recency bias. And I'm like, man, Caitlin Clark before the Olympics was way better than Breanna after the Olympics. Breanna went from averaging, like, look at Breanna's averages. Breanna went from averaging sorry, I've got this wrong as well. Jesus. I have this wrong, sorry. These stats are way different. I've got the complete wrong one. Oh my God, I've got it wrong. And also, by the way, like, this is just the most obvious one. Like, I need to go and find the actual numbers. You go and find the actual numbers, and I've just pulled up my YouTube studio. My computer's all over the place. I need to go and find, like, the numbers, because Breanna Stewart was so far, and I mean so far, off of that by the end of the year. By the end of the year, she averaged 18.2 points per game. Yeah, this was it. Oh my God, why is my computer banjaxed? It's a brand new computer. There we go. But look, she averaged 18.2 points per game. Her 3-point percentage went down to 33. Field goal percentage under 40. She shot under 40% from the field. I get it. She was unbelievable coming up towards the Olympic break. Guaranteed All-W first team member coming up towards the Olympic break. She shot under 40% from the field. She had an under 50% effective field goal percentage. And yes, Caitlin Clark's did in fact drop. But she also, she broke most points or assisted by in a season record by 170. There's like a 100 gap between first and second than there is between second and fifth. And obviously they're in the last couple of years because that's when the season went to 40 games, and next year it being 44, Caitlin Clark's 2024. And the ironic thing is, Caitlin Clark, her one in 2024 might be second all time next year. In a season with 4 less games, it might be second of all time because obviously she's going to break it barring injury. But like, we're now seeing the media, and this is where it gets annoying, where it's like, the media being like, oh, you know what? Caitlin Clark didn't deserve it. It was Sabrina. Like Sabrina deserved it, not Caitlin Clark. What about Alyssa Thomas? Alyssa Thomas, points per game from last year, down 5. Defensively was worse than last year. Rebounds per game, down 3. Assists per game, up because she stopped shooting the ball because she was trying to catch Caitlin Clark so that Clark couldn't break her record. And then on offense, teams stopped guarding her halfway through the season. Like, teams literally put their center and stand them under the basket against Alyssa Thomas and dare her to dare to shot put the ball in from the free throw line. That's literally how to guard Alyssa Thomas. If you're going to take someone off that team, it's obviously not Caitlin Clark. It's not the person who created the most points in the history of the game. And the worst part is people are like, oh, you know, I can't believe people don't know ball if they're saying Caitlin Clark's a top 5 player. She doesn't play defense. It's like, people don't know ball. Luka Doncic is not a top 5 player. People don't know ball. Prime Steve Nash was not a top 5 player in the NBA, which if you want to argue that based on stats, he obviously was. People don't know ball. Magic Johnson is not one of the greatest of all time. And if you want to be like, oh, Magic Johnson was a good defender. No, he wasn't. Magic Johnson was a traffic cone on defense. And also Caitlin Clark and Sabrina Ionescu aren't similar level defenders. The big difference is that Caitlin Clark is horrendous at guarding screens, and she has a coach and a team who can't play defense. Like, every player on the Fever looks bad on defense. Temi's a good defender, other than Lexi Hull. And the only reason Lexi Hull looks good on defense is because she's very good at drawing charges while getting over screens. That is the one reason she can look good on defense, is that she gets stops from drawing charges. Like, no one on the team looks good on defense. Even the good players that are good individual defenders, when you've got Chrissy Sides as a coach, you're never going to look good on defense. And Chrissy Sides has no ability to like hide Caitlin Clark. Whereas, in fairness, Sandy Brandello's done a good job of hiding Sabrina. So Sabrina is that much better on defense. Caitlin Clark is that much better on offense. And I know Sabrina hit the great step back, but like, look, I'm not saying Sabrina's not unbelievable. She's just not Caitlin Clark. But the reality is that even if you wanted to make the debate, the logic is completely flawed. Sabrina Ionescu averaged 13 points a game post-Olympic break. Like, she went down to 18.2 points per game. She was averaging over 20 prior to the Olympics. Caitlin Clark got better as the season went on. And I'm sorry, like, late in the regular season while pushing for the playoffs and getting ready is more important for regular season awards. Yes, Sabrina Ionescu is one 30-point game away from being finals MVP. Like, if Stewie drops 15 and Sabrina Ionescu is 30, she'll probably win finals MVP. And like, depending on these last 2 games, right now Stewie's in the lead, but it's not by that much. But at the same time, she's going to maybe get that award. But if she should have, I don't think she should have been on the first team, by the way. And my reasoning is that she was so bad after the Olympic break. Like, it's the reason why Jackie Young didn't make an All-W team. Jackie Young was terrible post-Olympic break. It's the reason why, again, I don't understand why Enrique made a All-W team, but still, like, that's the reason why these players kind of fell off, was post-Olympic break. They really slowed down, and Sabrina was the worst case of it. And that's just reality. But now, because Caitlin Clark got it over Sabrina, and Caitlin Clark didn't even get it. Why are we talking about that? Like, Alyssa Thomas is the most overrated player in the history of basketball. She got it. And the amount of people are like, oh, how does Caitlin Clark get more votes than Alyssa Thomas? You don't know ball. Alyssa Thomas, you don't guard her. Like, I'm sorry. Offense is more important than defense. And I don't mean that from a team perspective. I mean that from an individual perspective. An individual that can orchestrate the best offense in the WNBA is more important than a above average defender who's not even the best defender on our team. It's more important than an above average defender. It is. It is. Like, there's no one player, or unless your name is Victor Wembanyama, that can have a greater defensive impact than a prime Steve Nash, than a Luka Doncic, than a prime James Harden can have on offense. Like, we've never heard, like, Rudy Gobert gets sat in the damn playoffs and he's one of the best defenders in the NBA. She's just Ben Simmons. She's Ben Simmons. She'll average her triple single, and if she gets her triple double, it's 10, 10, and 10. As well as that, teams aren't going to guard her. Teams are going to dare her to shoot. And eventually, sometimes she's going to hit them, other times she's not. And teams are going to live with her shooting the ball every single time. I'm sorry, that player is more of a liability than somebody who's a below average, than an individual who's a below average defender. And I'm not saying from a team perspective, if a team can't play any team defense, they're not going to be good. But if an individual isn't a good defender, they can be hidden in a good team system. The problem is that she's got Christy Sides as a coach, and Christy Sides makes even the best defenders look like they're incompetent. Either way, obviously, Caitlin Clark was on that team over Breanna Stewart, and the only reason these people are bringing this up is because they want to move the goalposts. So originally, it's Angel Reese is better than Caitlin Clark, and once that argument stopped, it's now Kelsey Mitchell is better than Caitlin Clark, and when Caitlin Clark goes and makes the All-W first team, very clearly was the best player on that team. She actually even scored more points than Kelsey Mitchell this season. Then now it's Sabrina's better than Caitlin Clark. It's literally they're just going to go from player to player to player to player to player. And then when Caitlin Clark comes in next season averaging 24, when she comes in next season averaging 24 and 9 and is the clear runaway for the MVP, it's going to be, well, that's when, Fee Collier, they've all turned on Fee Collier because people are saying Fee's better than AJ. Now it's Fee's better than Caitlin Clark. And you better believe if AJ Wilson averages 26 a game, AJ Wilson could average 26 a game. Caitlin Clark could average 24 and 9, and the Fever could have a better record than the Aces, and there would be still people saying that Caitlin Clark shouldn't be all WNBA first team. Book that next year.